personal injury cases as well. Attorney Gerald Thurswell of the Thurswell Law Firm, my guest. How are you this afternoon?
Fine. How are you, Mildred?
Good to talk with you. It's been a while.
It's been a few weeks or so.
Listen, I know we don't have all the facts. Are there any concerns you have legally concerning the little bit that's been shared with us about this case in Lansing Township?
Well, police officers have to make split-second decisions sometimes. And I guess this gentleman was in a car. He was a passenger. And instead of raising his hands up in the air, according to the witnesses, instead of just raising his hands up in the air and say, I have a gun in the car, but his hands up, he decided to raise his hands up in the air and say, I have a gun. And I think the officer reacted out of fear for his own safety. So you're raising your hand and you have a gun? Why don't you just raise your hands? Why do you have to pull out a gun? I think this is going to be very, very defensible for the police officer.
When I first heard the story, I wondered why the man didn't just get out and raise his hands and say, Officer, I want you to know that I do have a gun. It's on the back seat of the vehicle. You know, sometimes people do that when they're stopped.
You know, we've seen so many cases, especially the case in New York, where we all saw the video, the complete video. I just think that's inexcusable what happened in New York. We all saw Trayvon Martin, where Zimmerman was told, back off. You got a gun, back off. The police said, back off. I mean, those two cases are so clear, so clear, and these people are dead because of the reactions of Zimmerman and then the officer in New York. This shooting in Lansing, I think it's quite clear. You just don't raise your gun up in the air when the police are pulling the car over to the south. You just don't do it. The other good thing about this case in Lansing is instead of having the police department investigate what happened, they called in the Michigan State Police. So we have an independent body, an independent investigative body looking at the facts, which I think is good, and I think it should be done in every case. And I think in all the other cases that we've talked about, there's always should be a special prosecutor, somebody that is not related in any way, shape, or form with the county or the city that is involved in the particular incident, you know?
Yes. You know, with all that we've seen, one would think that John Q. Citizen would be a bit more sensitive right now. Not in a negative, well, I understand the negative way, let me say that. However, I'm talking about being more sensitive and aware of just how particular you have to be in these police stop situations.
This showing a gun to a police officer, saying I have a gun. God, that's inflammatory. That would scare the hell out of me. Somebody raises his hand, I got a gun. That's you know, the interesting thing, too, about this case in Lansing, apparently it was a white police officer, and the gentleman that got shot and killed was a Hispanic. So, in addition, the gentleman that got killed had a record of resisting arrest. He had a criminal record of resisting arrest and problems with the police department. So I don't think he was the best guy in the whole world. I'm not saying because somebody has a record they should ever get killed. No, so don't get shot. But this guy knows the consequences. He knows that before he got arrested and went to jail. And here, police pull you over. The first thing you should do is raise your hand. There is a gun in the car, just exactly like you said.
While I have you on the line, Counselor, as you've witnessed, the world has this video in New York with Eric Garner. Although a jury has chosen not to indict him, any of those officers, what was the problem there from your perspective legally?
I don't have a clue. I have no idea. The only thing I can think of is that the chokehold and then the compression on his body, coupled with the fact that he had some underlying health conditions. I think he had asthma and some other health conditions that resulted in his death. But look at the bottom line. He's selling loose cigarettes. You need to arrest somebody for selling loose cigarettes? It's preposterous. You need to take somebody in custody because they're selling loose cigarettes? It doesn't make any sense. Give somebody a traffic ticket. Give them a warning. I can't imagine why they didn't indict that officer. I can't imagine. I mean, it's not fact. What evidence could they have heard that we didn't see in here?
Well, that's what the world is asking. Everybody's asking that very same question. It is so unfortunate. You've dealt with a lot of juries, and you've had a lot of cases where people have misbehaved, and that misbehavior has resulted in a death. Would you share with our listeners how prosecutors, based upon their jobs, how a prosecutor can end up going into a grand jury and somehow sound more like a defense attorney for the person who's they're being asked to indict, as opposed to someone who wants to charge them?
Oh, it's just the way they ask the questions. It's the order in which they present the witnesses. It's what they talk to the witnesses about before they present them. If you were to look at the history of grand juries, and you look at the prosecutor who presents the case before the grand jury, you will see that in these non-police cases, when a prosecutor wants an indictment, they almost always get it. Almost always. On the other hand, when it's a police officer who is a prospective defendant, a police officer who may be indicted, you hardly ever see those police officers indicted. Hardly ever. And again, it's because it's the manner in which the evidence is presented. Or, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the public says these officers have a tough job. Their lives are on the line every minute of the day. And maybe they overreacted, but look, they protect us 99 times out of 100. So maybe we should give the police officer the benefit of the doubt and not indict. So it may be twofold. One, the prosecutor, and two, the feeling of the grand jurors.
What do you want to leave our listeners with today, Counselor?
I'll tell you this, and we've seen it repeatedly. When the police ask you to put out your hands and get handcuffed, when the police ask you a question, respect them and do what they say. Don't do anything whatsoever to incite them, to inflame them. I mean, they've got a gun, and you don't. You don't. So cooperate. When I was a child, when I was a kid, we always respected the police officers. Who was your friend? A police officer. And we always gave them respect, and I think everybody should. I don't think the gentleman in New York did anything wrong, never, ever deserved to die. And for Trayvon Martin, I think about it almost every day. What did that kid do? He was walking through a complex. Somebody wanted to start trouble with him. I mean, it's just horrible, just horrible.
Attorney Thurswell, there's a 248 number. There's a 1-800 number to the
Thurswell. It's 866.
866-354-5544.
That's right.
Okay. Folks, the number to the Thurswell Law Firm is 1-866-354-5544. That's 1-866-354-5544. Thank you so much. We'll be talking with you soon.
Thank you, Mildred.
Okay.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.